All right, we will call this meeting to order at 7:30 just to do, I love it, Saved by the Bell, just to do a quick roll call. B, I think you see also, I've got Francesca, Laura, Jean Goodman, George. I saw Steve Haberstraw. Let's see, I see Matt Conspor, I see Jake Granito. Carl is logging in now. Let's see. Do we see Jack Hawkins yet? Let me just double check the second screen. Hank, of course, is on.
We have 10 people, Ronna.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll call to order. First item on the agenda for the committee is to approve the meeting minutes of the Park and Rec Commission meeting that we held on February 10th, 2021, that you guys were emailed and it was posted. If you can take a look, if you haven't already, and then we'll see if anyone would like to make a motion to approve.
I would motion to approve.
Thank you. That was George, and I saw a second hand by Carl. Second, and any comments or changes? Doesn't appear. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda, I'm pleased to hand off to Tiger Mann to talk about pickleball and the Mead Park hard court rebuild and an update for us tonight. So Tiger, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Let's see if I can.
Can you share screen?
I'm gonna try. I just had to get to the icon. We have very good news on a development front. I wish there was 1 week later, we'd actually have even more news. We had two options for the court. This was one of the options, which was 4 pickleball courts and a practice court at the end, all on a post-tension basis, or we did something similar to this, which would be 5 courts and the practice court would be here. So you could still play practice off of it, but you'd have 5 pickle. The feeling is to go with the 5 pickleball courts and still leave the practice court up, so the practice wall up. We got approval from the finance department for the funding as far as transferring over from the clay courts all into the pickleball court account. We have a meeting with the contractor who is actually on a state bid for the work for this. So John, Steve, and I will meet with him tomorrow and go over the work. And at that point in time, if we can finalize the plan and finalize the pricing, we'll be bringing it to the Board of Selectmen, hopefully at their next meeting, and then to then award this contract and start moving forward. But the overall thought is to redo that hard court at the top, take away the trees that are along the railroad tracks since they're damaging the most of it, resurface or put in an entire post-tension concrete surface below, surface the top of it, put in new fencing, and then put in some additional trees in the back as a buffer just to protect or to soften the look along the railroad tracks. And that's basically where we're at. So we're a lot further along than we were last month, and if we were 1 week further, we'd actually have even more information just by one day. I thought we were meeting next week, not this week, so that's what we have.
That's great. Steve Haberstraw, I know you were involved in some of the initial bids. I wasn't sure if you had any questions at this time.
Well, I just want to say thank you for continuing to work on this. And this looks like a great result. So the news that you would be getting next week, what was that again? You said there might be
We're
one
going to
more.
meet with the we're going to meet with the contractor tomorrow out on the site again and try to finalize pricing. And at that point in time, then we can go bring that contract to the Board of Selectmen for approval. So Board of Selectmen met yesterday, so we meet with the contractor tomorrow, and then we'll try to get on the Selectmen's agenda for 2 weeks. So it would just be that if we met the day after tomorrow, I'd have a little bit more information since we've already spoken to the contractor, but
And you, based on the work thus far, you feel as though the cost for the project will be in line with what kind of was earmarked, so there shouldn't be any major surprises, or
should
could there
not
be?
any. No, there shouldn't be any major surprises from what we know. Hasn't changed that much, during the delay, so to speak. The court's still in almost the exact same condition, needs to be torn out. So we're in that same position. So I think we'll be okay.
And then their scheduling, are they really
That's what
busy?
that's the thing that we have to discuss tomorrow is their scheduling and their availability. That's
Okay.
the biggest thing. It's pricing, but we feel that their pricing is going to, one, it's on a state bid, so it's pretty standard at that point. And then two, it really comes down to scheduling and when they think they can come out here and start working.
Do you have a recommendation for the ideal time, or it's just whenever you're out here?
Now, how about that? Apart from that, no. I don't think it's going to affect anything. Their work in that area shouldn't affect much. It's got that court is set aside and all by itself, really, so it won't affect the other courts or the play on the other courts at that time.
Well, this is really exciting, so thank you, and hopefully next month you give us a great update.
We'll give you, but yeah, hopefully at that point in time, we'll tell you that we had an award and a date of start.
Thanks,
And-
Tiger.
Tiger, am I correct that there may be an incentive for this contractor or whoever the contractor of
No,
choice is?
That
No.
was on the refurbishing of the clay courts.
okay.
That's different. We went to bid on that, and the selectmen awarded that contract. And inside that contract, we had a bonus for an early finish, or a finish on a date when we wanted them to be open. So we had 3 bids for that. The low bid was the contractor we had been working with in the past who had done really nice work for us. And then actually when we included his bid, even with the bonus and our contingency, it came in under the second bidder. So not only was he able to fit our time frame, but he was also able to fit our pricing. So our thought was the only way we could try to get somebody to come in here to open when we want them to open is to actually incentivize them. So we put in a bonus. Usually if you put in a penalty, penalties are hard to assess. Bonuses are a lot easier to offer. And you can't have a penalty without having a bonus. You have to have both. So, but that's
Thank you.
separate. That's the clay courts down below.
Fantastic. Thanks for the clarification. I'm sorry, Francesca, I see your hand now.
Thanks. I just want, you have the 2 plans. One is with 4 courts on the.
One was with 4 and the practice court set aside, and then this one with 5, and you still have the practice wall available. It just happens to be on this 5th court, so you could play pickle if no one wanted to use the practice court. If they want to use the practice court, you'd still have 4 courts left.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mute them.
Was that? There's 24 questions, 12 of which are multiple
Sorry.
choice. 15
That's
minutes
not-
for 12 questions, that'd be fine.
Somebody's got to mute the camera.
Great. There we go. We're
Okay,
good.
wait, I wanted to continue. The main court and the practice court are 2 different levels to my.
No, it won't
That's
be.
correct. What this will be, we'll make them all one level. So this will be a post-tension concrete where everything will be at one level at that time. So we won't have that change in grade, which, it's not necessary to have the change in grade. It's probably, it's a little unsightly. It's probably not the safest thing. So
It's fine.
it'll be all one continuous playing surface, which I think will be nicer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Tiger. Appreciate that update.
No problem.
Don't see any other. Oh, Carl, please. Sorry.
I was just wondering, is there potential for any disruption to the clay courts or the maybe the concessions at the apple cart from this work?
Shouldn't be any, Carl. This court's kind of set aside a little bit, so will there be some noise? Yeah, but I don't think that overall that when they put in a similar installation at the high school, there didn't seem to be that much noise or dust or disruption when they were doing it there. So I think it'll be fine.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the court will be poured in one day. The high school took 2 days, two separate pours, but this court can be poured in one day. It takes about 3 weeks for it to cure, then they can start surfacing it.
Right.
That's great.
Longest time is actually for it to come up to strength, as Steve mentioned. It's almost like you're building a bridge, if you can imagine, right? You're putting in a whole bunch of concrete slabs together, and then you're stringing wire strands through them, pulling them tight, and then grouting them in place. So it's in essence, you're building a bridge over the top of the entire area. So really, the time frame is actually the longest time is waiting for it all to come up to strength before you can actually surface it and then play on it.
Sorry, this might be getting a little bit ahead, but has there been any conversation yet about the reservation system? Because I'm assuming this is going to be pretty popular right when it's ready to go.
We will have it up. We'll have a similar reservation system similar to what we have for the tennis courts, and the tennis court attendant can monitor the people playing the pickleball court as well as the tennis court.
So it won't be like the high school one where they would like register as a household and be able to do it online, the online system?
It'll be the same. It'll be the same reservation system we use for Meat Park and the high school and the paddle tennis courts. The same system.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
We need a reservation system. Otherwise, we'll have everybody from out of town here playing on the courts, and the residents will be able to use it. So we have to make it a reservation system so the residents have first choice in playing.
Right.
Very smart. Thank you, Laura. All right, I don't see any other hands up. If not, thank you, Tiger, and everyone for your questions. Next item on the agenda is the YMCA Kiwanis Summer Camp Lease Agreement. I think the commission received a copy of the draft lease agreement, and along with that was a map showing, and I'll try to share my screen here, the use of Kiwanis in which areas. See if I can do this. Hold on. Oops. There it is. Okay, so I'll try to page up. Basically, the YMCA lease agreement is as though we're back in 2016, 17, and 18 pre-COVID. So with the exception of one change, and that is that the Ymca camp would not be using the playground area. So the staff would continue to park near the exit on the right where it is in blue right here. They would be able to use the back half of the park, which they typically have, and the open lawn in the back near the basketball, volleyball courts, and the picnic pavilion. But again, they would not be in the playscape area. You can see the red line around that area is just for the back part of the park. And the only addition other than the picnic pavilion are the locker rooms and potentially the house, if that's accessible for them at the time, which they used as an office setup during the day. And again, I'll just point out one more time for the benefit of those and the neighbors that are on our Zoom tonight in and around Kiwanis, the only other area would be the staff parking. So they've reverted back to not having as many members. The max amount of children that could participate in a session in the agreement is noted at 140. And outside of that, I will open it up to any questions for the commission first. If there's anyone who has a question, please feel free to unmute just so I can spot you. I see you, Jack. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 140 this year, how does that compare?
In past years, they were at 120. They've increased by 20 children. Last year, when they had the entire park, I believe it was 160, but they had the entire park. Okay. And the request did come through for an additional 20 children. And it was put forth as from them, as there are so many children interested in this program, you know, post-COVID and wanting to have something to do, and the parents wanting the children to have something to do. So that was mainly the request. And also you can imagine the financially strapped YMCA in this COVID environment has not helped them. So we didn't find that 20 additional kids would be a lot. 40 would be a different story. So we settled on the 140. Hope
Okay.
that helps, Jack.
Yeah.
Great. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'll stop sharing so that I'm able to see everyone. Francesca, and then Carl.
When we walked through Kiwanis and when we met with the neighbors, one of their big questions was, is it again going to be, are they not going to be able to walk through the back of the property to get into the park?
I can answer that, Francesca. That's a state guideline. We have the same issue at Wavenet House when they have my camp. The state guideline for licensing says the public is not allowed to have access to your camp area. And we've never allowed people to walk through. We never have allowed the neighbors to walk through because they don't check in with the attendants, so they walk right into the beach. So the part of the state guideline is they have the state rules that for a camp license, the campus, you have to not allow people to walk into your camp, the public to walk into your camp area. And that's why they have signs up that say camp in session, no public's not allowed.
Okay, well, those signs will go back up then because they weren't there when we did the walkthrough recently, right?
Yeah, when the camp's in session.
They put them up.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, I believe you're next.
Yeah, I was wondering what's the difference between there's the kind of yellow shaded area and then the area that's boxed with a red perimeter.
That's the same area they've had for 60 years.
But what do they designate? The yellow versus the red?
The yellow is just an area where the campers have always been. They've always had use of the locker room. They've always had use of the beach area over there. So everything in yellow and the locker room is what they've always had use of the past. And we, about 10 years ago, we built the new pavilion. We allowed them to have access to the new pavilion, the pavilion there, because we had the new pavilion for the general public. Up to 20 years ago, the only pavilion the public has was that picnic pavilion down by the apartment. But then that all got moved up to the new pavilion about 20 years ago. We built that, so we allowed the Y to have access to the old pavilion for part of the day. When our camp came at 1 o'clock, then we had use of the picnic pavilion. But then before 1 o'clock and then after 3 o'clock, they had use of the pavilion.
Okay, so I should ignore the yellow shaded area. It's the red perimeter.
The town lawyer put that in. I don't know why. That's just the area they were. Nothing's really changed in 60 years.
Okay.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions? Great. Would anyone like a motion to approve? Jack, thank you. Do I have a second? Jake, thank you. I think Jake beat you by just a hair, George. Thank you. Anyone opposed? All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Next up is the summer theater request for summer 2021. Steve, I have the letter handy. Do you want to give a little background?
Well, the summer theater, when they first started outdoor performances, they were in Wavenet Park. They actually started in the walled garden, and then that didn't work out too well. So then when the town got Irwin Park, they moved to Irwin Park, and then after Irwin, they moved over to the area by the high school where the new roadway goes through the high school parking lot. And they were there up until 2 summers ago, and then they moved to the lot that the library purchased on the corner of Maple Street and South Avenue. And now that lot is going to be used by the library for their new addition, so they can't be there. So Ed is looking for another place that he could possibly host the summer theater. One area he asked about is the hillside that leads down to the pond, right below the wall garden. And the second area he asked about was possibly using the lawn behind the Lapham Center. What he's looking to do this year, because of COVID and some of we don't know what all the restrictions are going to be yet, because the state hasn't changed many things. I know he was looking to have his stage partially under the tent over the stage only, and the audience would have to sit in designated circles or squares, and so he would have to either paint squares or circles for the audience to sit in. That the state has given us some guidelines on that. So he'd like to plan for this, and so he'd come to the commission now. I think it might be smart for you to set maybe a little subcommittee to meet with him to go over everything, and then maybe bring it back to the commission in April for an approval. Right now, the governor said starting the 2nd of August, you could plan for summer festivals and summer activities. So I think it might be smart to designate 1 or 2 members of the commission to meet with Ed Libinati and myself, maybe John, and we could go over the areas in the park and look at it and come back to the commission at our April meeting to get approval.
Thank you. Questions for Steve or comments from the commission? Francesca. Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just know from having gone that often it rains. And so that would be more difficult, I think, behind the walled garden than it would be at Lapham Center. And I just wonder if you're considering that.
Well, he was not talking about having the audience under the tent. I know when he was on South Avenue, the whole audience was inside the tent. He's not talking about having the audience in the tent because of the social distancing rules. So he's talking about just having the tent cover the stage. And if it rained, they would postpone the show that night because the audience has got to sit. The audience can't be under the tent given the current guidelines. So they'd have to sit socially distanced. You have to have 6 or 15 feet between the squares or circles. So we have to follow what the state DEC guidelines are. So his intent, what he's told me, was the audience would not be under the tent like I've been previously.
Thank you.
Matt, then Hank.
Steve, was there any consideration for what did I come up with? Irwin.
We can't have nighttime meetings or activities. We got sued by one of the neighbors, and that was part of the settlement with the judge.
And that would probably be the same issue with Kiwanis as well?
Yeah, you could put the Kiwanis.
Thank you, Matt. Hank, and then Carl.
Steve, do you anticipate that the state regulations will allow for the porta potties that are always there at the summer theater?
He'd have to have some kind of portable sanitation. I don't know where he would locate his porta potties. He had them at the other. He had 2 or 3 or 4 of them at the other location when it was over by the high school. But again, we have to wait until to see what the state's going to approve, when they're going to approve, make their recommendations.
Carl.
It was just a comment that I would expect if it were in the location near the English Garden, that would interfere with the concerts on a Wednesday evening. That'd have to be maybe tabled around that.
He understands that we have our concerts on Wednesdays and our rain dates are on Thursdays. And I explained to Ed that, if he's on the hillside there with his tent, okay, it's away from the house, but that the month of July, when he's proposed from July 15th to August 1st for the shows, and we do not have any weddings at the house in July right now because of COVID. People canceled, so the month of July is open. It's time for weddings at the house. So it might be a time where it's not going to interfere with the house. We don't even know if we can have our summer concert because they haven't told us what the guidelines are going to be. Right now, as of next Friday, the 19th of March, we're allowed to have 200 people outside for an outdoor event.
Okay, so at this time, Steve, will you come back to the commission next month in April?
Yeah, do you want to have 1 or 2 people from the commission work with me, and I could get Ed, we can have a full meeting with Ed and go over it, come back and make a recommendation. I think John and I can be happy to meet with Ed and whoever wants the commission wants to help out.
Okay. Great. If there's anyone on the commission, Jack, I see your hand that would like to help. Jack, go ahead. You'd like to help out? Excellent. There you go, Steve. Steve, John, and Jack.
Right, that sounds good. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you,
I'll
Jack.
get in touch with you. We'll set up a Zoom meeting with Ed. So-
Yeah, it sounds good.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'll put that on the agenda on my notes for the month of April. Thank you so much, Steve, for the update. All right, next item up for the on the agenda is the Carriage Barn Art Show request.
All right, this is similar to Summer Theater. I had a discussion about 2 months ago with Hillary Whitman, who was the executive director at the Carriage Barn. Given COVID, they were hoping to have maybe a community art exhibit or art show and use the parking area in front of the Carriage Barn and the area, the courtyard in front of the powerhouse, and possibly the parking lot to the right of the potting shed there. She talked about a weekend in June, and that weekend we don't have any events at the house. Explained to Hillary that, you know, the time we talked, that you only can have 50 people at an outdoor event. And next week, as I mentioned, it goes to 200. It's still in discussion. They would like to be able to plan for it. The governor said last Thursday that you could starting April 2nd, you could plan for events or festivals. So she would like to work planning on it. There's still some things we have to work on regarding traffic flows and how they're gonna allow the access to it for the public. We don't know what the number of people will be allowed. Right now it'd be 200, and that would have to include their artists and their volunteers working. So they'd have to do an hourly reservation system so people can sign up on the hour to come look at the art show. I don't know if they can allow walk-ins, because you might have your from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday. You may have all the time slots filled, so it would be difficult to have walk-ins. So there's still some questions to be asked, and hopefully by mid-April we'll have some more answers from the state about what their plans are for numbers for the summer. But I told Hillary I would bring it up tonight, inform the commission that I think it'd be a nice event to have in the park. We could certainly utilize the area. It'd be attractive if they would like to bring in the local artists to do it. So I think it could be a nice event. They'd like to start planning it. So I told them I'd bring it to the commission for planning, to get permission for planning purposes.
Steve, do you mind just saying the dates again, when they would be doing this? Forgive me.
Yeah, it's June. The dates are June. June, is it June 12th and 13th?
13th is Saturday, if that helps. No, idea. Let me see.
God, why with me? My phone's give me a hard time. There you go. I have right here.
Thank you.
It would be on June. It would be a 2-day event. It would be June 12th and June 13th.
I guess the only comment I would have, Tiger, with the potting shed there on the corner and the work being done, does that interfere at all with anything you guys are doing there?
No.
Okay.
No.
Perfect.
There's no construction plan of the potting shed this time.
Excellent. I knew there was whatever was happening there. I saw some trucks
They're
and
usually 10 to 5 on Saturday and 10 to 4 on Sunday. They would have about 75 people who would be artists or volunteers working, and they would anticipate to have 100 guests per hour. And they probably would do it on a sign up genius type of basis. And they're working with the powerhouse. It might be a joint venture with the powerhouse, because they need to use the powerhouse bathrooms, the old bathroom, and the bathroom in the Carriage Barn. And so they're hoping they would give the arts, both the powerhouse and the Carriage Barn, some exposure.
phenomenal idea. I think it's a great idea.
It
Are there
would be free and open to the public. They might ask for donations, and they might sell water or soda or iced tea or something like that, but they would not have a food truck or any food for sale. They just might have bottled beverages, which are allowed in the state guidelines.
Great. Do I have any questions from the commission at this time? No. Do I have a motion to approve the use of Carriage Barn for an art show June 12th and June 13th? Approximately no more than 75 people. Thank you, Francesca. And second, Laura. Anyone opposed? All those in favor? Excellent. It's unanimous. Thank you, Steve.
Great, thank you
Great
so
event.
much.
All right, next item on the agenda, I'm really excited for. You'll hear it. I would jump up and down, but then I'd go off the screen. So the Wavenet Disc Golf Course has been here. I don't know how long, these guys will tell you, but I walked it prior to that last giant snowstorm and was blown away how magical it is. So forgive me for never being there. It's horrible to admit, but I'd like to introduce Tim Smith, Tony Ferrara, Chris Schofield, and Mickey Stamens. I hope I got all those names right. You guys can unmute, and please, the mic is yours. Please.
Hello. Okay, Tim.
How's it going?
You go ahead, Tim.
Okay, I'll start. And I just want to say thanks for having interest in the course. Thanks to Mickey, Chris, and Tony for showing up.
Thank you.
Some old friends, John Howe and Steve Banco. I've done a lot of stuff with them. I guess I was, Roni, you asked me to go over 4 kind of items, the history, the usage, the progress, and some goals of ours. With that, and I was just going to go through those, and then maybe at the end, you guys can ask questions. Does that work?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim. That's perfect.
Okay. So the Wavenet Disc Golf Course is located on the west side of Lapham, across from the town pool, if no one's familiar with that. Wavenet is one of 6 courses in Fairfield County. It's one of 31 courses in Connecticut. It's also the 7th oldest course in Connecticut. The course was established in 2007 on a trial basis with temporary baskets. In 2008, the Park and Rec Commission approved in-ground baskets, so the course was sort of permanent. It's and I can explain that later if anyone has questions about that. In 2011 to 2017, not a lot happened, and the course became a little overgrown, and any of the trees that fell weren't really attended to. That's because I moved away. But in 2018, I started the cleanup, and for the last 3 years, we've been doing that. In 2020, last year, we established 6 new holes. So there are 18 holes out there now. And that's leads on to usage. Because of the 18 holes, I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing so many people enjoy the course now. Players of all levels are enjoying the course. I've really seen an increase of players, especially this past year. Also out there, we see dog walkers, joggers, and occasionally a mountain biker, but that's pretty rare. As far as progress goes, the course is in the best shape it's ever been. People comment it all the time, how much they enjoy it. And it's all thanks to the people that volunteer that go in there and clean up and toss the stick aside. And especially after a big storm, there's a lot to do. We keep the course as clean as we can. Mickey and I, whenever we go out on a round, we take a garbage bag with us just in case we find garbage. We pick it up and get rid of it. And the goals, I'm sorry I'm going so fast, but I wanted to keep this simple. The goal is work on the tees this year. The tees are natural and they take a lot of maintenance because roots pop up, rocks pop up. Eventually, long term, maybe we can look at establishing tee boxes, which I estimate to do the whole course would take $5,000 to $6,000. Another goal would be have a spring work day this year. It's, get people involved in cleaning up. We would like to see some new signage. Currently, we use laminated paper signs, which works well, but it's not very professional looking, I guess. If we can have a tournament this year, we have had 2 tournaments in the past. They were PDGA tournaments, which is Professional Disc Golfers Association, which is probably the biggest disc golf group in the United States. It's thousands of players. The tournaments are open to pro and amateur divisions. But hopefully we could, if COVID allows, we can do that this year. The other thing is establish, I think this is probably a long time coming, maybe establish a contact on the Park and Rec Commission that we can interface with and keep you guys up to date with. I think that's about all I have to say. So if there's any questions, or Mickey or Chris or Tony, if you want to add something, go ahead.
Well, yeah, definitely the tee boxes. I mean, they're okay now, but that's definitely the first thing that I would say to be addressed, is because obviously they get very muddy and very slick.
Yeah, they're really bad right now.
If
Yeah,
there was to be one thing we would start with, I would say tee boxes would definitely be a priority.
Yeah.
And eventually long-term baskets would definitely be a thing, you know. Some of the baskets are in pretty rough shape right now, but you know, definitely stick to tee box. There's definitely some muddy areas as well that we could definitely, you know, more bridges or wood chips or whatnot could be brought in, because getting to certain holes is very slick and very muddy in a lot of spots.
Yeah, this is the worst time of the year out there right now.
Yeah,
because the snow melts and then it firms up a little bit. But yeah, no, I agree with all that you've said. So
Thank you. That was an incredible update. I mean, after walking it a month ago, really was blown away how incredibly it is put together. You guys have done a lot of work with carrying trees that have fallen to shape a path to help you get to the next hole. I absolutely agree. Well, I don't want to put anyone on the spot to volunteer, but I think having a liaison to Parks and Rec is a great idea. And I think having you guys come to us once a year for updates on progress and tournaments and things will continue. I would open it up. I guess the one question I had is, have there ever been lessons? I know Steve Banko's on, I think Bill Cap is on. Have we ever done anything with lessons? Steve or Bill Cap, have we in the past? No.
No, we haven't, because when it first started, it wasn't 18 holes, and it developed, it morphed into 18 holes. But you know, basically, I know Tim and Mickey had done some, they offered to help people, show people or how to play, but no, we have not done anything to as far as the disc golf goes, as far as lessons and things.
Okay, great. I think the liaison could maybe help by putting that together and understanding your needs and a list and finding out what could be done with volunteers or town. I don't want to speak for Tiger, John, and Steve, but maybe the first step is getting you a good liaison and looking at tee boxes and understanding tournament dates. Does anyone else on the commission have a question for the guys while they're on?
Sorry, before you go, if I could add one more thing that I think might be appropriate, and that is that Steve and Bill were nice enough to put the disc golf onto the website. So the website now has a link for disc golf. And since in the last 12 months, we've added these 6 holes, the layout map and the scorecard, and some of the information has become out of date. So I think it would be helpful if we could provide you that new information and the website could be updated.
Excellent suggestion. I saw 4 hands go up. So we'll go Carl, Jack, George, Francesca, I think. So Carl, you're up.
Just more comment. I'd just like to say thanks very much. It's a fantastic course. I've been playing it for the last 18 months or so, and I've seen the great improvements that you've made through that time. Like, for example, there's now a little box at the start where if you find somebody's disc and discs get lost there all the time, you can just post the disc that you found in that box. And it's common practice to write your name and your phone number on the back of a disc. And then there are people who will then get in touch with you to return the disc to you. So obviously a lot of love and care and attention on the course. Those 6 extra holes, it's great work, and I'm astounded you managed to do it really as a volunteer effort. And I'm, you know, happy to put myself forward as a liaison if you wish, Ronna.
Oh, Carl, fantastic. Thank you. That's great. Jack, you're up next, and then George.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Tiger, I guess would be the right person to ask, but so you mentioned putting out some wood chips or something like that. I wouldn't imagine that would be that big of a deal. Would it be to just go ahead and
Jack, we have to watch out, because a lot of that area is there's some wetland areas across the street.
you could get stuck in and all that?
we'd have to have Kathy Holland come and look at area before we put any footbridges or things that we
I
don't
don't want it to
disturb.
be on.
Okay.
I think so.
Great. George, Tim, I'm sorry, Tim, do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, in the beginning, Kathy walked with us out there, and I have a topographical map which shows the wetland areas. So we've always been very concerned of keeping ourselves as far away from the wet areas as possible. But I'd be more than happy to walk with Kathy again out there. But we definitely made that step when we first started the course. So.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if it was possible to get those wood chips out there, but if there's wetlands, then obviously that would be an issue driving into, so. Yeah.
George,
Thank
you're
you.
up next.
Right, Tim, two questions. First, have you all set any date in terms of this cleanup that you want to do, be it April or May? You probably haven't at this point, but you may reach a date. If you could let us know when that date is, that would be great.
Sure.
Second question is, how do you guys advertise yourselves in terms of marketing yourselves and getting people out to play? I've known about this course for a while, but I don't really didn't know that you guys had kind of a group. And as a suggestion, like Saturday mornings, come learn to play disc golf, something of that nature. How can you better advertise yourself? I don't know how many active participants you have, but I think it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing. How can we expand on it?
I guess to answer your question, dates for cleanups, we can determine that. I think we were always conscious of the birds also. In the beginning, there was someone that was always concerned about not having tournaments in the spring, so to speak, to disrupt that. What typically courses do, and I think the other guys can add too, is they'll have doubles rounds. So they'll pick a day and a time, and anyone that shows up can participate. And it can be recreational. Sometimes it's like $2 to join and $1 goes to payouts or something like that. But I'd be more than happy to have several instructional days over the summer or something like that. That would be, I think, great. So,
Yes,
and
I don't think too many people. It's a great, unique feature. I don't think too many people in the community know about it.
I agree. I think it's growing though. We see more and more families out there now, which is awesome. So.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, George. Francesca, I think you were
Sorry.
next. Oh, go ahead, Mickey.
If I could add one thing, in the past, not continuously, but a few times we've had contact with high schoolers who've been interested in the disc golf course. And so there's been ebbs and flows of participation from the high school, but it hasn't been as consistent as it might be.
Okay, so maybe a conversation with Jay Egan, the athletic director at the high school, would be a good start. Happy to facilitate an email between the four of you if you'd like.
Great.
Francesca, you're up.
So I love that we have the disc golf. I think that's great, and good job, you guys, for taking care of it and getting it better and better. I have two friends recently who've told me, oh, if you play disc golf, it's out there. So it is a growing interest right now in town, and kudos to you for that. I just wonder, I don't know anything about it. How many people play on a team? How many people can be on the course at once? How much parking is necessary? Those kind of questions.
We use the town pool parking lot. That's where most people park.
Okay.
It's kind of like traditional golf where you have a group of 2, 3, or 4 people and you play around together. I think people right now are being very careful sticking with people in their pod, or some friends I haven't seen in a while, we wear masks and things like that. So we're all conscious of that. I'm trying to think of, did I answer all the questions? But I mean,
so if 2 groups of people are out there, how many more people can be accommodated on the course?
I can take that, Tim. So
Sure, Mickey.
I think the maximum on the course at a time, like when we have a tournament, we limit to 72 participants because we allow one group of 4 on each of the 18 holes. So we start that way. Sometimes there are very long holes that could accommodate more than one group, but it's rare. So we'll start one group on each of the 18 holes and then allow that to rotate around so that everybody starts and ends at the same time. So that would be the maximum number of people you could have on the course at any one time. When you're playing recreationally, we see families out on the course, often groups much larger than 4 are playing together, which is great. They're running in the woods, they have a dog with them or whatever, having a good time. But in tournament play, we limit it to 4 per hole.
Thank you.
So Mickey, Chris, Tim, and Tony, Kira Smith is on our call with us and had a fabulous suggestion she put in the chat, which is to organize something via the newcomers. Also, that's a great site, and maybe NC Moms. So I'm happy to give you a bunch of those suggestions in the introduction to Jay when this is over. And obviously going forward, having the liaison with Carl and coming in front of us once a year is fantastic if you guys are amenable to that.
Sounds great.
Absolutely, sure.
Do I have any, Kira, thank you, by the way. And do I have any other suggestions or
Well, yeah,
comments?
one more concern that I would have for the future, as this disc golf probably over the last year has like pretty much exploded in popularity. Courses, you know, they're getting pretty packed a lot of the times. Not so much Wavenet because, you know, it's pretty new. Not a lot of people know about it. Cranberry Park in Norwalk's been around for a while, and it's becoming an issue with walkers and dogs, and it's almost impossible to get through a round. I do like that Wavenet is pretty much dedicated to disc golf, but as more people know and they'll see, you know, you'll see a lot of walkers come in and this and that. I don't know if it can be something that's just dedicated solely to disc golf. But
Because there's a dog park across the street already, you know, so yeah, I think it'd be great to keep it.
When people see an area like that, they try to overtake it, and then, you know, you'll see all of a sudden walkers and they make their own trails and they're coming through. I know it's an open park and it's available to everybody, but it's become a problem at a lot of places where, you know, you don't want pedestrians in the way of flying discs, so it becomes a liability thing, and you know. Cranberry's decreased in popularity because of that problem. So
yeah, that's why the club, there's not too much of a club anymore, is because it's sort of a dog park now, you know, and there's already a dog park, and the disc golf course kind of gets taken over, and a lot of times dogs will come and pick up your disc, and then the owners don't, you know, they don't really understand, you know. So yeah, it's really tough. I don't even really go to Cranberry anymore because it's too much, you know.
I had a question. The dogs off leash?
Yeah, and they just don't follow the rules over there.
Then you should call the police and have them come down.
I had a dog Sunday morning pick up my disc and walk away with it over at Cranberry Park.
Call the police because they're the town rules that dogs must be leashed in the park.
Yep.
Yeah, there's specific rules actually. So the thing with Cranberry Park is it says they're allowed to be off of the leash in the trails as long as they're like under verbal command, and you'll see the dog running. You'll see the dog running, you know, hundreds of feet of, you know, ahead of the owner, and there's no owner in sight. And then the owner, you know, sometimes the dog has picked up my disc, and the woman has the person hasn't even known that it picked up my disc, and it's just. And they just don't understand. Some of those discs are $60. I mean, that's a lot of, you know, some of them.
Maybe we need to put some add some signs there at the entrance to the entrance of the trails you come into the disc golf area saying all dogs must be on a leash, because that's the town ordinance. It's not like, no.
Yeah, but that'd be nice if we could get something like that.
Tim, if you can hold 1 second. Jean Goodman, I know you've had your hand up, and then over to Tim.
I did. And my question was, maybe I missed it, but I don't believe we heard numbers like we usually get, how many people are playing tennis, what kind of volume of participants have you had, and perhaps in 2 ways. Some people obviously are returnees, so how many individuals do you have playing, regardless of how many times they return, and then might be the total number of rounds of people, whether it's one person one time or one person 10 times? What's the grand total, if you have any numbers on those types of usage information?
I think that's a tough question to answer. The course is relatively quiet compared to other disc golf courses. I'd say the busier days obviously are weekends, but I wouldn't say there's more than 12 people on the course at one time at any one time. And rounds per day during the week might be, I don't know, a half dozen or so. Would you guys say, Chris and Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing before the big snowstorm, probably 4 or 5 times a week there. I'd go after work to get in around. Wavenet's pretty quick to get around. You could play in about an hour and a half by yourself. Very rarely did I see other groups, to tell you the truth. If I did, it was 1 or 2 groups. So yeah, I would say on the course at any given time on a weekday, there may be 8 to 12 tops. On a weekend, maybe 20 or so. But yeah, it's pretty spaced out, and there's not that much traffic right now. But as it gets nicer, the popularity will grow, and it will get, definitely, as more people know about it, it'll definitely pick up. And
Yeah, also it's like the core people, they think, when they come to the park, they don't know what disc golf is. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
now
You
we
went
can,
up-
yeah.
Okay, sorry, my internet connection. That's sometimes if people come to the course, they they might think that that's what disc golf is. It's muddy tees and I feel like the tees are super important. And I have some ideas about that in terms of turf, which is a great low maintenance way to put in tees. And then the baskets are super important for legitimizing the course. And then the signage, obviously. But yeah, I think as more people start to come, the legitimacy and the seriousness of the course is super important to show that disc golf is a serious sport, and we're doing something. So I think that's super important to just legitimize the course. And yeah,
Good point, Chris.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, to get back to Jean's question about number of people, I think one of the constraints in our ability to answer your question specifically is that there's no registration or any monitoring of the play at all. So it's really just our anecdotal evidence of, all the time that we're out there. Tim and I are working on the course. How many people do we see when we're out there working on a hole or working on a tee or doing whatever it is we're doing? We see people coming through. That's the only way we can tell how many people are out there.
Thank you, Mickey. I don't see any other hands. I think, first step, you guys, maybe a walkthrough with Carl, so he's able to frame a lot of the things we spoke about, and I'll send a separate email to make sure all 4 of you are introduced. And also the J. Egan newcomers and New Canaan moms. So help you out with that. And I really appreciate everything tonight. It was a nice overview. And if those on this Zoom have not seen or walked the Wavenet Park Disc Golf Course, I highly recommend it. It is as though you are not in New Canaan. It feels a lot like Maine, in the middle of Maine. It's beautiful, it really is. So thank you for all the hard work, guys. We salute you.
thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, the rec director's report.
All right, thank you. Well, we've got some programs going on this winter. We have some hands-on pottery with like a before and after school program. We've that going. Bill's organized that. We've also had guitar and ukulele lessons for kids. And these classes have been held on Monday, Wednesday afternoons after school. We finished up our winter series of paddle tennis lessons. We're making plans for a spring session of lessons for adults, and we're taking registration of those classes now. Hopefully they'll start the first week in April. The paddle season is still going strong. People still playing all the time. This weekend on Saturday between 8 and 12, the Fairfield County Men's Paddle Tennis League is having their annual ball fowler tournament, and they're using courts all over Fairfield County. So they'll put one segment of play at our court, and then they'll move on to where the finals will be at one of the clubs. Bill is planned for a drive-through with the Easter Bunny on Saturday, the 27th of March. And we've got it worked out. We'll have some displays and blow-ups, and we'll give the kids some jelly bean bags when they come through. And then the Easter Bunny will be there to greet them. The youth sports schedules are for youth fields going out. John and I have been working out with Jay Egan. I know the youth lacrosse program is starting their tryouts tonight, and they'll go tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and then the next Monday and Tuesday. I know that the youth softball and youth baseball program have been given some time on the Water Tower 3 field, as well as the soccer association. So the UCAN FC. So those sports are starting to gear up. The weather, like you said, the weather's going to change. Everybody's going to want to get out and start doing things. The high school, the state gave approval for the high school to have spring sports. Those trials will begin on Saturday, the 27th of March, and the spring sports of high school will be going full blow. Our fields are open. The state has published rules for the use of the fields. Right now, it says that if you're using any fields, you must wear a mask if you're participating in any activity on the fields. We have signage up at Dunning Stadium and on the Water Tower turf fields that say your mask must be worn at all times while using the field. The state has also set rules about social distancing for parents and for coaches and things. So right now things are a little tighter. They'll open up a little more next Friday, the 19th. There's another set of rules going through that will open up some of the restrictions. But for instance, right now you can't have more than 50 kids on a field. Starting next Friday, it goes to 200 kids on a field. So let's see. Last Thursday night, the Board of Finance did approve the operating budgets for the Board of Education, the town departments, and the capital budgets. I sent you a copy of the whole town budget that was approved by the Board of Finance. We're moving on next week to the town council, and I believe we have a meeting with the town council subcommittee on our budget on Thursday night, the 18th. And we're at the end of the line there. So I think we don't meet with the committee till 9 or 9:30. So we're at the very end there. I know Bill's working on some additional programs for the spring, and we're working on planning. We had a family fourth meeting last Thursday, right after the governor announced that organizations could meet and plan for summer festivals and summer activities and summer camps. Right now, all we can do is plan. We can contact the fireworks company, get a contract. We can contact the bands and other activities that could possibly take place on the family fourth, but we don't know if we'll be able to have the family fourth. It all depends what the state does with capacity limits. So we're restricted by that right now. So right now, all we're doing is planning, and hopefully by early May, we'll have an idea of what the state's going to do with the regulations and how the metrics go with the COVID virus, and hopefully with the vaccinations taking place, that more and more things will open up. They'll loosen the restrictions. But so right now we're in the planning stage. We can't do more than that. So, other than we announced that we would have it on the 4th of July again, and that's about all we can really do. I don't know if Bill wants to add anything. He can add something to it. What I just said.
Hi, folks. How are you?
Hi, Bill.
The state of Connecticut is anxious to bring us out of this lost year that we've just had. And, here at the rec department, we're just trying to return to a standard normalcy, after this pandemic. We still remain without our popular special events and family events, some of which I've been able to resurrect, keeping within the guidelines, such as which would be the end of March drive-by with the Easter Bunny. It's always a fun thing, but these events are so sadly missed. They do such wonderful things for the town, but aside from that, we're moving ahead. We're looking at the spring and summer, trying to get back to almost all the normal programs we've had before, and we're almost there.
That's
Yeah,
great.
we did take registration for our spring tennis clinics, and it's been outstanding. We filled all our youth classes. We have about 24, 25 kids on wait list. We're going to try and open another class to take some of those kids in. Most of the adult classes have a good turnout as well. So we're looking forward to a strong tennis season when we come first week in May when we start our clinic. So that'll be really good. We are also making plans to continue the reservation system at the high school courts. And I think we'll probably do what we did last year, where if you're a New Canaan resident, you can go on and you can get your password and go in and make your reservation. What our plan is right now for the high school courts is that we will staff it probably starting around the 15th of April on weekends with an attendant. So we won't staff it weekdays because school's in session and the high school, some of the high school gym classes use the courts during the day. So we're not going to staff an attendant during the day. And in the high school, girls and boys varsity JV teams will have practices. So those courts are probably being used till almost 5:30, 6 o'clock every day with the high school practices. So what we plan on doing is the month starting like the 15th of April, we would staff it with an attendant on weekends, and also the month of May on weekends, and then on holiday, Memorial Day. And then starting around I think it's the 12th of June, we would then staff it full time, seven days a week with an attendant on duty. People can make reservations, and the attendant will check people in and out. So I think that worked out real well last year, and I think we'll continue that this year. And we'll have an attendant on duty 7 days a week, right through Labor Day weekend. So that's what our plan is.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. I don't see any hands. I have one question about paddle, but I'm going to hold that for our paddle update, which is coming in just a couple minutes. Next item on the agenda is the Park Superintendent's report.
Good evening. First, I just want to contradict Steve on one thing. Our fields can be open, but the grass fields are way too wet at this time of the year. That's all.
Right,
We're probably looking at another month. The artificial fields are open. We've plowed everything off. So just want to make sure that's clear.
This is the turf fields, you're right.
Yeah. Other than that, we've been coming out of winter. We've started doing some spring cleanups, hitting the worst places first and things like that. We were able to do 8 more benches, power washing and refinishing them. And we just put those out on Monday. So we've done all the ones down at Mead Park at the playground, and also the 2 at the Colonnade. As far as budgets are concerned, we actually did very well. One thing was deferred was the playground at Wavenet. That's been deferred a year. But the best part for the Parks Department is the Board of Finance has given us the ability to hire a part-time worker, which will help a lot. So we're very happy about that. And other than that, we're ready for spring just like everybody else. We look forward to seeing Wavenet packed and the fields packed, and we're ready to go.
Excellent. I think the entire New Canaan residents are ready. So thank you, John. Thank you, Steve, for both of those updates. We look forward to coming out of all of this and enjoying all these things. Next item on the agenda is the chairman's report. I guess I would just state some happy news in this kind of environment. One of our town employees, Todd Declan, and his wife, Kimberly, just had a baby girl on Tuesday. So I just want to welcome Leighton and hope they're both doing well. And baby Leighton, their little girl, is doing well. That's great news. It's always nice to see weddings, babies, puppies, all this good stuff at a time like this, or any time for that matter. And then I know Steve would have mentioned, but it reminded me that the golf ball drop from the helicopter is occurring on March 31st. That is going to be televised. No one is to be present, but that's something not to miss. And if you haven't, purchased your golf ball for a chance to win, I suggest you guys do. You can find that on NC Color Run website. And then we look forward to lots of updates in the month of April. We'll be doing a large download of our Kiwanis meetings and efforts and what we've been doing there with that subcommittee. That will be at the April meeting. So thank you to Hank, Carl, and Francesca. We'll get the summer theater update from John, Steve, and Jack. Jack, thank you for volunteering. And potentially Tiger may have a pollinator path update, and maybe there'll be a Wavenet ADA update just on the work and what's happening outside there. So that's all I have for chairman's report. And moving on to our committee reports, the first one up is paddle tennis, and George will be giving us an update on the paddle.
Great. Do you have the screen share? There we go. Super. So that, okay, as you can see, the results are beyond stellar, okay? They've more than really doubled since 2016, 2017 from a revenue standpoint. And obviously the level of participation has gone up incrementally each year, okay? The seniors have been kind of flat, but everybody else, including the youth, has been up tremendously. So again, kudos to Steve and John and how the whole system is run. My big question now is, Steve, what more do you think we need to do to support a good, strong paddle tennis program? Where do you see the potential deficits, and how can we support you as a commission?
Well, I think there's been a lot of interest in summer and in playing in the summer, and talking with Steve Dayton and Bill, and I think what we're planning on doing is just extending our permits, the length of the permits for our current permit holders till the end of July. We're going to need to get into the courts in early August and do some resurfacing and some other work that needs to be done. So we'd like to keep the first 2 or 3 weeks of August so we can do that resurfacing work. But we could extend the reservation system. It would be on an honor system. There was some talk at people asking about, could we have the building open more? I would think that what we'd like to do is to do it under a controlled manner, and so that a lot of times people playing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. I know there's a men's team and a ladies team that play in the Fairfield County League. So what we could possibly do, they have a summer league, so we would possibly have an attendant on duty, say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night from 6:30 to 10 o'clock, and that way the attendant could be there to monitor reservations, and we could have, if things change, we could possibly have the building open for use by the players, so they could come in after they play and sit down for a minute, cool off. But right now we're still under the restrictions with the COVID rules. But so that's what we're talking about doing, to possibly accommodate our players. I think we have enough funding in our budget to do that, so we could do the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, 6:30 to 10 o'clock, and have an attendant there, and then they can monitor the reservations. The rest of the week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, would be an honor system.
Okay, I'm fully supportive of that. Do you need the commission's approval to do that, or can you?
No, I think, if you support it, then you recommend it, then we'll try and carry it out. So I think we'll try and do that.
I would be supportive. Ron, do you need a motion?
I believe we do. That would be a motion for the use of the paddle courts, correct? I'm sorry, the paddle hut.
I would say the motion would be to grant Steve the authority to extend the season through July with paddle usage, reservation system, and the paddle hut, which he would utilize it on an as need basis, I guess the best way to put it.
Okay. No, I agree. So do I have a motion? Anyone like to give a motion to allow the extension of the paddle season through July and potential use of the paddle hut? Thank you, Hank. And do I have a second? Thank you, George. Anyone opposed? All in favor? Thank you so much, everyone. Steve, there's a couple of questions. Terry Hott in the chat asked, do the leagues from other towns pay us for the use of our paddle courts?
We don't allow it. The only league play is with New Canaan teams. So in other words, we have 3 men's teams and 4 ladies teams that play in the Fairfield County Paddle Tennis League. So our team, in order to play in a team, you must be a member of the Wavenet courts. So we don't make our courts available to outside groups if they're not members. So everybody who plays on our teams that play in the league are members of the Wavenet courts.
And I'm assuming with this passing of an extended season that you would still need to have the paddle pass to reserve past spring season, then, right?
It's not open season. It's not open season. If you currently have a paddle pass, you can make a reservation. And all we're gonna do is extend the reservation system through the end of July, so people could make reservations as they normally do on the internet. So
Thank
you have to be
you
a
so
pro
much.
player to do that.
Excellent. I think that answers Terry's questions. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you for that update, George, and Steve also for your comments. The next subcommittee report will be from Laura, and Laura is going to give us an update on tennis.
Hi, everyone. Rhonda, do you mind putting that chart up? The one that I forwarded you?
Yes, I'm looking right now.
Thank you. All right, this is pretty much a ditto of paddle. Tennis has clearly been a COVID winner for the usage in our town. The chart that you're about to see, and all of my information was gathered by way of Steve Banco. So thank you, Steve, for everything that you were able to provide. I don't see it yet, Rana. Is it up there?
Sorry. Yeah, it's
Okay, well, I'll just talk while you're getting it going. So basically, the permit sales, you will notice year over year from 18 to 19, from 2018 to 2019, we're up 13%. So we were already on a progression at that point. And then year over year from 2019 to 2020, they were nearly double, with a 98% increase. So the uses has just been astonishing. It'll be interesting to see now that the other sports are coming back and travel teams are coming back, if it continues. But at least people got lessons and have a little bit of base now with tennis. Just to continue on from that, and sorry, I don't know if it's going to make, if the chart's going to make it, but basically I just gave you the numbers on the permit sales, the increase. And then as far as, so there you go, that's a chart courtesy of Steve on the permit sales. And you'll notice for the most part that the biggest,
Make sure that you're not unmuted.
hang on, just if you can mute just until Laura's finished. Thank you so much.
okay, yeah, so you will notice that, you know, a big chunk of that increase was in the adult senior area, I would say. Okay, moving right along. So with the tennis clinics and lessons basically followed suit with the permit sales. And a lot of that, a big contribution to that was the new teaching pros that have been on staff for the last 2 years. Fortunately, they came into play before COVID, so they, you know, had a little bit of a hold here in New Canaan. But this past spring was the only decrease that we had, given the fact that the courts were closed for a period of time during COVID. In 2019, we were at, revenue wise, we were at 20,540, and in 2020 we were 12,540 for a 39% decrease. Then moving right into summer, 2019 we're at 26,400. In 2020 we were at 75,185, which is 185% increase in revenue for summer year over year. And then moving right along, fall basically followed suit, not quite as dramatic as summer. However, 2019 was 22,930 and 2020 was $34,506 for an increase of 50.5% year over year. So again, let's see if that holds this coming year, but it certainly was great that our town was able to provide such a great source of recreation during the COVID period. Reservation statistics, I do not have. The high school courts, as we've previously, Steve mentioned, was under the reservation system where households signed up to be able to do that online, and 600 households, just under 600 households and individuals signed up for that service. Steve and I were basically going back and forth a little bit on this, and I know we've touched on this before as a committee, but it sort of begs the question, do we continue that as a service, or do we add a fee? Is there any you know, positive in adding a fee to that? And I know we've talked about this before. I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it, but given the usage and given the new system that's in place, and given the fact that there are now people hired to be attended to be at the court, would it be prudent of us to add a small fee for that service? I think that's all I have. That, and I can't wait to try disc golf. Yeah.
That's great, Laura. It's really incredible numbers. I think
it's all Steve, by the way. I'm just presenting, you know, what he's been collecting. So
really incredible. Tiger, if you want to bring that down, thank you so much. I'll see if there's any hands. And I just wanted to open it up. If there are any public comments, you know, give yourself a minute or two, no more than 2 minutes. Just state your name first. I know that Terry Hott had some questions. Terry, do you want to unmute and ask your questions?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I've been up at the paddle courts, and there are quite a few people from other towns that know that our off season, when our off season starts, and they're using our paddle courts, and there is league play. And that was why my question was, do they pay us to use the courts? Because all of us that have passes, and that's revenue for the town, make our reservations. If these other leagues are not paying for the use of the courts and they're reserving the courts, I mean, what revenue is collected on that? And with COVID, I'm assuming that we want to keep, just like the other clubs that we all, you know, other people belong to, they closed it for non-members. You know, can anybody just get on the courts? I know that we had one Sunday I was there were just people driving by, and they jumped on the courts with their kids, and just to throw a ball or something for their child. And I, you know, of course you're not going to say anything because, you know, it's not my place and you want to be friendly, but they're on the courts just messing around. We need a sign that says it's for Wavenet Pass, Paddle Pass members only. And we need to make sure that if people are bringing guests in, they pay for the guests, and that it is for the town Paddle Pass members to use those courts. Okay. And that's why we built the 5th court, so that that all the league play can happen on the 1 through 4. And then there's a court for any town person that wants to play. But I'm telling you, I'm there quite a bit, and there is a lot of league play on those courts. And if we're not, are they past members? Or?
I don't know what you're talking about, because Steve Dagmar, we have an attendant on duty, and he monitors all the reservations, who's playing on the courts. And the attendant's on duty Monday through Friday from 8 to 8:30, and he's there again from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. And on Saturday, the attendant's on duty from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And on Sunday, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. So we have a attendant there, and to use the courts, you gotta have a reservation. So we don't allow out-of-town groups to use our courts. We don't allow.
Well, I've gone up to the court, not to interrupt, and I apologize, I'm not trying to be rude, but I've gone up to the court, and there have been paper signs on the court saying that there is a tournament playing. What tournament? Where did you book it? Who did you book it through? Went up to the court where I made a reservation on court 5, and I had to move some men off the court. They said they're using it for their league play, and that they have all the courts. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I booked it.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we coordinate, you and I, and the next time you run into that, you reach out to me. I'm happy to send you my cell privately.
I love it. I would love that.
Let's do some, you know, just random, let me know when you see it. And, you know, I think a sign is a great idea. I hate to put signs everywhere in a park. I know we're all.
I know. But a simple sign that,
I understand
that we have that a paddle pass is required for play on these courts.
I
We do
just
have- we do-
messaged
we
you
do
my,
have- We do
my
have A-frames we put out there that says, please check with the attendant before using courts. And there's another one that has all the rules on it, so I
Right.
don't know.
Well, I will say this, your attendants are fantastic, all of them. I have no problem with that at all, but I can only tell you what I've experienced.
That's really
So-
good to know, Terry. We appreciate the feedback, even if
All right.
it's, a surprise.
Anytime, we'll sit
some of
down and
it's
have a
unsure.
conversation.
Yeah, really do. Steve Dayton, did you have a comment?
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of this, Terry. I'm sorry it's happened. We do have one of the boards out front stating our rules, and I believe it does say you have to have a Wavenet paddle permit to play. My gate attendants have not told me anything about this, so I would appreciate, I'll give you my cell phone number privately, and if this does happen, please let me know too.
Yeah, listen, your attendants
okay.
are wonderful, but they're not there all the time, and that's the point. And unfortunately, I'm there a lot because I'm obsessed, as you know, with paddle.
Right.
So, yeah, I try to do what I can, but I'm not going to be rude to anybody. But if I make a reservation on a court, I want to be able to get on a court as well. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then with COVID, we were shut down for a reason. So it's just, it's love.
Agree, Terry.
It's lovely that our town has this, we have this opportunity to do a sport outside that is so amazing and that we can all participate in. And I just think that it is a way for us to get together as a community in a safe mode. And then it makes money for the town. I love that. It's a win-win for everybody.
It is. We agree.
Okay.
I'll have, you have my cell.
Yep.
So you text me and I'll put you in a group text
Yep.
with Dayton and I.
All right.
So
And I'll
not
mute
up there.
myself. Thank you, guys. Sorry.
I appreciate your comment.
You got it.
And thank you for both the updates on paddle and tennis, Laura and George. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Nice job, Steve Dayton, Steve Banco, on keeping those things out. Last item on the agenda tonight, the ice rink. Our subcommittee is Jake, Hank, and Francesca. I know a little bit of backstory for those that are on the call. I know we have a lot of the Kiwanis neighbors here and some of the members of the public that are interested in and pulling for the ice rink. So thank you all for being here tonight. A little bit of backstory. We tasked Jake with his construction background to really go through the parks and knowing transformers and lighting and parking and all the other things that I'm not familiar with, that he uses expertise to really give us a list of the top, 1, 2, 3 sites. So Jake, I will hand the mic over to you.
Thanks, Ron. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been going around town and checking out the parks, and I've met with Tiger, John, and all the parks guys as well, and they've been a really big help, just kind of narrow down some sites here. We do have a couple sites, and I'm going to go through all of them for everyone. So the first spot that we looked at was turf field number 3, and when we got there, we looked at it, and we actually ended up we just didn't think that it was a great spot. Even with redoing the parking lot that they're doing now, we'd have to remove some sections of fence in order to get the Zamboni out there. You're having to bring power in. The only thing that was really there was the lighting, and you're going to be putting an ice rink on top of a brand new turf field, and we just didn't really feel the risk was worth it in that state. So that was actually our first one that we put into last place as a, God forbid we ever needed something, that would be our area. Next spot would be Mead Park. Mead Park's a little bit more work than we would like to chew off right now. It'd be the big baseball field. You'd have to bring in some fill. You'd have to level it off a little bit. The lighting would have to be brought in. Power is on Park Street, so you have to bring in power into the park. So that's another one that is a lot of work, and we're going to kind of wait on that one. The next one will be the parking lot in Wavenet, near the stone bathroom by the softball fields. That parking lot is going to be ripped up and paved at some point in the near future, if I'm not mistaken, Tiger. in that, we looked at that spot. There is a transformer there already. We talked about converting the bathrooms over to be winterized, which wouldn't be a big cost. Lighting would be easy enough to tie into that transformer as well while we're hooking up our compressors. And then our last spot is the Kiwanis as well. So those are our 4 locations that we have right now. We're still doing our own research with the town engineer, Joe, Tiger, and myself. We're still kind of digging into these locations right now and really trying to, make sure that everything, all of our ducks are in a row, and we have all of our necessities that we need to get the rink up and running and to keep it running for the season.
And I'm assuming, Jake, that now that you've narrowed it down to 4 potential locations in some kind of rating of first, second, third, fourth choice, that next steps would be utilizing Hank and Francesca as your full subcommittee for the ice rink, and, a public meeting of sorts to move one of those forward or 2 of those
Right.
forward, correct?
Right. Yeah. So once I kind of narrow some stuff down with Tiger, Joe, and John, we'll get the subcommittee really together. We'll issue to make it
Notice.
public. Yeah, we'll notice it, and we'll go from there with it. I think that right now we're just looking into making sure that if we need to upgrade a transformer, if we need to, we're just trying to figure out everything right now, logistically, for what's going to be best suited, to make it easy on everyone make it easy on everyone here.
Right. Understand. And then I'm assuming in previous research, and maybe this was before your time, that sometimes the biggest lead is the power if you need to call ahead to get, or transformer helps.
We all know how Eversource works. Power is just, it's one of those, it's very expensive if it's not there, and it's a long lead item. These things don't just happen within, a week. These are 8 to 12 week operations where you have to go through engineering, and you have to make sure that everything is going to work out, because, once they set a transformer, that's a lot of money.
Great. And I know when you list those locations, I think the one that would be, the one with the most neighbors around it, it would be Kiwanis. So
Yep.
with a lot of those neighbors here tonight, I just want to be clear. I know that Francesca and Hank and Carl have been busy putting together a list of those neighbors that would want to comment when and if we look at that choice further.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that their voices would be heard. The other 2, having no homes really close to them. So
Right.
just clarifying that with the parties, that
Yes,
are
absolutely. Everyone will be heard at some point or another when we get to that point. Right now I think we're just a little bit. I think we're probably like a month or 2 months away from really really nailing it home where we're going to have this rink. I think that maybe at the next meeting hopefully we'll have a location picked out, and we can go from there. Steve was at the meeting as well. Steve, thank you for coming out and helping Tiger and myself and John the other day as well.
Yeah, Jake, the one thing in the Wavenet parking lot, I did check out the power panel on the compressor, and it says 460 volt, 200 amp, and we have that at that parking lot.
Perfect. So that's,
Hey, Jake, when you come forward with the proposal location, will it also include a startup cost as well as an operating cost for a season? In other words, it may cost X to get it running.
Yeah. So yeah, George, sorry. So our first season is obviously going to be,
sure.
We'll have some stuff like right away. If we were to pick, let's just say if we were to pick Wavenet parking lot, we're going to save on bringing in power to a location right away because the transformer's already there. So now we're going to focus on, you're going to focus on, buying your lighting, your benches, everything that you need just to kind of make it come together.
Okay.
So, one of those things is, yeah, we'll have a breakdown of everything. And we can, we'll kind of guesstimate what we think it'll cost
Sure.
just to kind of have a first year versus second year, operations.
Great. And I
Okay,
believe
thank you.
someone had one question, Jake. And I believe Irwin is off limits because of what's in that code, but someone asked, with Irwin being somewhat underutilized and has the kitchen and restroom and power, is that an option? And maybe Steve or Tiger, you would know the, not zoning, but you would know what's related to what's in the setup for Irwin?
We can't do nighttime activities in Irwin
Oh,
because of
that's right.
the lawsuit and what the judge put through as a regulation.
Okay, thank you. Great. And then obviously, I just want to restate that prior to you narrowing it down to, the top two choices,
Yes,
that
we will
residents would
issue
be
and
heard.
everyone will be heard. Yep.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep.
So
No, of course.
it's
Yep.
covered. Okay,
Everyone will be heard once we get to our, top locations, and we'll hear everyone out.
excellent, excellent. Thank you. I really appreciate the update. I know it's something. Francesca, please go ahead.
Just a question about this rink. Is it going to be used for residential fun time, or are you hoping to use it for tournaments and little league? And because that changes it slightly.
So, I mean, tournament wise, you can't really host anything. It's a 60 by 120, so it's not even a full size rink.
Okay, good.
It's about a full size ice rink is 200 feet long by 85 feet wide. This is 60 feet by 120 feet. So this is more for
Winter enjoyment.
Winter enjoyment, and it's Friday night, instead of, let's just say, the kids walking around town, they get dropped off at Wavenet, and that's where they hang out for a couple hours.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Do I have any other questions from the commission? Jean Goodman. Jean, you just have to unmute. There you go.
I believe there are other locations besides the one you mentioned. I assume there'll be an opportunity to bring them to the committee's attention shortly down the road.
Sure.
Okay. Also, when you talk about getting costs, there are, from my perspective, many other items which haven't been mentioned. There are skates for a rental shop, a Zamboni, or a tractor to pull the existing scraper. There's staffing, there's putting the rink up, making it down. There's people that have to run it. There has to be an office to collect fees for it. I assume it's going to be a charge for it. There has to be mats, which are very expensive, and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't go into all the detail, but there are a lot of the cost items I haven't heard any reference to.
Yeah, Gene.
Coming back to George's comment about getting a budget together and run for a year, a wood floor, including a changing area, which has to be covered in some sense. Sorry if I got ahead of you there.
No, George had asked, and I said that, the next time we meet, I would have all these answers and try and ballpark some of these prices and everything like that. That's all.
And I would just clarify too, for Jake, just for budgeting, there isn't, and Hank, I'll call on you next. I'm so sorry I didn't see your hand until now. That in the budgets and those being discussed, there is zero funding or money budgeted for the ice rink or its activities. So that would need to be worked out.
Right. That is my understanding as well.
Yeah. Okay. Hank, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Thanks, Rana. I just want to go on the record to say that if for Kiwanis, not only will the neighbors, how the neighbors feel about this be very important, because neighbors surround Kiwanis, but also the Exchange Club will want to have their say also. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll be sure to include them.
Anyone
Great.
else?
Jake, thank you. I really appreciate the update. And
Yep.
I know everyone's anxious and eager. I think having just one more amenity for the town is a win-win, another outdoor activity. So I appreciate the legwork that was done before for this from Jean and Tom O'Day and other people in town. And hopefully Park and Rec and your subcommittee can recommend a good location, and we go
Yep.
from there and try it out and see what happens. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful night. I'm going to make a motion to end our meeting. Anyone like to make that motion? Thank you, Francesca. Jake, second. Anyone opposed? All in favor? Have a wonderful night, everybody. I'll see you in a month.
Good night.